behaviors are one of the hardest things to change. To try to change a way a person acts or operates is one of the most difficult things. So when I'm working with my team of people and I understand what their strengths are and I understand what their weaknesses are, we talk a lot about how to make intentional change. How do you take a person that's a pretty negative person most of the time, a glass half full, and get them so that they probably won't be a real positive person, but to minimize that and the destructiveness that you can have on a team. So look at yourself, surround yourself with some people that can help you evaluate where you are good and validate that, and then work on it. And find things that you're passionate about, find things that you're good at. Even when you do that, it still takes a lot of sacrifice. To get where you want to go, to be successful, to pull off a life of continuous improvement and self-improvement and betterment, year in, year out, to get where you want to get when you get where you want to go. It takes a lot of work, obviously. It takes a lot of sacrifice and a lot of discipline. And you have to live with the choices that you make. So once you've gone down the road, you've got to deal with the situation that you're in. And you can only look at yourself for how you got down that, how you went down this way or why you went down that way. Ultimately, whichever road you go down, and I think I'm a living proof of that. I went down a road that brought me out of school. I would tell you that that would not be my successful advice to you to be successful. I wouldn't tell you to go to Ohio State and drop out. I wouldn't tell you to not to finish. I wouldn't tell you not to study. Now, you get another chance. You can get another chance. I got another chance. I took advantage of it. I wouldn't say that that would be the route that I would recommend, though. I would take the route of using the resources that are available here at the Todd Anthony Bell Center. I would take the route of listening and trying to figure out where it is and proactively figure out what it is that I want to do. Understand what my strengths are and what I would want to accomplish versus just randomly following the path. So my final things here are here. You know, I said life will send you signals. It can make things look easy. It can make things look like they're shortcuts. It can make things look like they're easy to obtain. And all of those things that are easy to obtain, that are cheap, don't last very long. And I know you've seen many situations, especially in our African American community, of high school dropouts that seem like they had more than the kids that were going to school. Kids that you probably know right now that are probably driving a bigger car than you have while you're getting your education. People that have already taken a shortcut and it looks like they're winning. And when you pass it, it's going to feel good, but you will want to reach back and try to bring as many of them along as you can. So take the stairs one step at a time. Focus on your strengths. Don't bite off more than you can chew. It's tempting to want to do more than you can. The key to being successful over a long-term period of time is to have a foundation. Too many people get to the top very quickly because they haven't built a foundation. They don't have a network. They don't have other people they can trust. They really did never develop the skills. They got put in a position because they looked good. They had the right suit on. They had the right tie on, or they knew the boss. They couldn't sustain. They couldn't run the business. They couldn't manage it. I always say develop a niche. There's something that you're good at, and the best thing to do is to try to find out that niche. It's much better to be an inch wide and a mile deep in a specialty area than a mile wide and an inch deep in a lot of different areas. So find that one thing that you're good about, that you have that passion for, that you want to make a difference in, that you can make a change in. Always be open to new things and new ways of doing things because the world and our economy is changing very, very quickly. This financial tsunami that we've gone through, and many would say that we're still in, a big debate about whether or not we're in a recession today or we're out of it. And the economists can give you all the facts and figures. Most of the people that I know and most of the people that I see are still struggling. They're still hurting. They've got pain. They're afraid of the uncertainty. They're fearful about losing their job. As you graduate from high school, jobs are, who knows where they're going to be. Many of the jobs that you'll take are jobs that didn't even exist when I was coming out of school. But build your life one step at a time, in a calculating and intentional way. and build it on a strong foundation. Surround yourself with good people, and good luck. Be successful. It's a very challenging world out here that we live in. We need all the help and support that we can get. So, thank you very much. I can take some questions if you have any.
With SWAT, what would the team like to track?
Correct. So in a business, a threat could be your competitor. It could be government regulations. It could be taxes. From an individual, a threat could be something new, a change in your lifestyle. It could be losing your job. That could be a threat. It could be something that is going to happen that you have no control over, that you have to be aware of. Many businesses during this period of time failed, went bankrupt, because they didn't see the threats that were out there, or they didn't believe them. They didn't make changes quick enough in their business models, so they didn't make it.
Mr. Norton, could you address for young men here from the student standpoint, since the economy has changed, financial aid to go to school has changed for many students, the number of financial aid defaults that are out there, how can some of these guys manage that process?
This is one of the biggest reasons that students drop out. I know there are a lot of stats around why people drop out, and many of them are not because the person doesn't have the ability to learn. It's not because they don't have the ability to achieve. At the core of what they're trying to do is some financial stability. So when I was a student here, for instance, I lived at home. I lived in a house that had 4 boys and 4 girls. So every night, rather than coming back to the dorm, I went home, and that made it tough because our family was struggling and I was struggling. I was working a job, and tuition was a lot cheaper than it is today. Room and board is very expensive. I know what the rates are, and I know what I paid when I was a student here. But the biggest challenges that we're seeing are when kids come out of school, and then with the lack of jobs, they're burdened sometimes with high financial debt. And there are no easy programs to get you through that. One of the things about student debt is that if you were to file bankruptcy, that debt is not relieved. So there are a lot of debts through bankruptcy that if you file bankruptcy, you get out of the debt, not student debt. And so it's a big concern as we see a number of students that come through and they have to borrow for their tuition, and then they're unable to get a job at the end, and they're unable to start meeting those obligations. And those obligations can come pretty fast and pretty hard. There are some mediation programs. If you're working with a good lender, many times they will help you restructure the debt. But I can tell you the one thing, because it's not forgiven in bankruptcy, and it can really be a blow to your credit, is that you should try to talk to the bank and try to work it out, try to figure out a payment plan that you can afford, or a way to pay them back, versus not responding to those calls. Because when you don't respond to those calls, your credit gets worse and worse, and the only thing that you carry around with you is your credit. It can stop you from buying a car, from buying a house, from being successful, and it can just be a huge burden. But there is no real simple answer to how to relieve some of that debt.
Mr. Jordan, my name is Cornell Lewis. I have one question for you. I know you talked about character and integrity, and as I become more seasoned in age, thinking more about legacy. So if you could sum it up, basically, what do you believe your legacy shall be? If you could sum it. Is that too much? Is that too much?
No, that's not too much. I've been asked that question before, and part of emotional intelligence training in class that I've had before is that's an exercise that we actually do, and that's an exercise that I would recommend everyone to take is to look out 5 years and say where do you want to be, and then to figure the gap. What's stopping you from being that today? And I've thought about that question innumerable times, and many of the things that I think that I would want to be remembered for is that, from a professional standpoint, is he was a good banker. He helped people. He had to make tough decisions, but he helped people. He was transparent in their business. He gave people opportunity. He didn't necessarily finance their ideas, but if they had a sound business practice and they had a way to show that they could cash flow an idea, then I helped them. That I was a big influence in our community. That I helped young folks and students. I helped people across all sectors, be financially literate and financially responsible, whether they were in my church or whether they were on the street or my customers or just my friends. That's a big goal of mine, is to continue to educate and to give folks resources that they can help improve their own understanding of finances and how they manage money. If I look at my family, I would say he was a family man. He cared. He took care of his obligations. His children and his grandchildren and the other ones that might come behind him would look at me and say, that was my dad. I'm proud of what he did. I know that I had a relationship with him. So it'd be all those things.
And then we'll wrap it up.
Mr. Miller, my name is Gary James. Growing up, I always wanted to be a basketball player. So when I left high school, I really didn't know what I wanted. So how long did it take you to figure out what you wanted to do? Because I switched majors several times, thinking I would just jump from one major because it made a lot of money and go to another major because I thought it would make a lot of money. But really not knowing, because I haven't had the exposure. So how do you deal with that? How long did it maybe take you to find out?
I knew it could be a basketball player. But I didn't know necessarily that I wanted to be a banker. Early in my school, I declared a major right as a freshman that I wanted to be an accountant. I chose that, quite frankly, because I had a friend of mine that wanted to be an accountant, and because of all the subjects I ever took, math was the only thing I ever got an A in. I mean, everything else was kind of mediocre or average at best. And my career morphed into that. I've mentioned to you my experience at the accounting. Right after my freshman year, I go into the accounting firm, and I don't even get a day. I don't get a day acting like an accountant. I'm just an intern, and they fired me. They told me not to come back after one day. So I never thought that I would choose that route. But as life sometimes gets you in the way, it kind of brings you back to what your calling is. So after school and all that, one of the very first jobs that I applied for was with the U.S. Treasury. I heard about it through another friend, a colleague, and got the job. I started with 15 other people. Like I say, I was one of the oldest people in my class because everybody else was this entry-level job. It's right out of school, and I've already been in the Air Force for 4 years. And so it just kept calling me back, and got into it. I really liked it. I excelled right away, and it felt good. So I think part of it, and I tell my daughter this a lot, because she's in a master's program in Norway right now, and she's always looking for that one thing that's calling her. And I said, you just stop and let it come out. She wants to help college students. She wants to help them study abroad. I said, that should be the emphasis of what you should try to do. It's got to be that simple. It can't be about making money. Because there's a lot of ways you can make money and a lot of ways you can lose money. If that's the basis for your life, is how much money you make, you will never be successful.
Right here.
Mr. Miller, I've been in corporate America for about 15 years, working at IBM, Nationwide Insurance, now at Huntington Bank. I've experienced some management opportunities, leadership opportunities, and I've experienced some of the things that you've experienced in terms of getting to that next level or demonstrating that you can actually lead in organizations versus manage. Can you give some examples of some of the strategies that you use to show your senior leaders that you are actually a leader as well as a manager?
Here's my key at Fifth Third Bank. You see this pen right here? The only excuse for not having this pen on, you left it in your pajamas. You gotta wear the company on my sleeve right away. I am committed to Fifth Third Bank. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. They know. I know when a guy doesn't have his pen on, he's checked out. He's not part of the company. The next thing is that I only work a half a day, 7 to 7. So during my early part of might get lucky and find yourself in those opportunities, but I tell you, if you haven't built the foundations and taken the stairs, you probably, that elevator or escalator will come crashing down or you're stuck on the way up at some point because you don't have the foundation. So I would say there are no shortcuts, and I've had to change jobs a few times. And I didn't really take you through all the changes I made within the company. I just took you through a few of the experiences that I had within the company. There were many times that I could tell that I wasn't really part of this team, that either they didn't want me there, or they didn't value my knowledge or my skills, and it wasn't a good fit for me, and I had the courage and conviction to move. The worst thing you can do is stand something you don't like and you don't enjoy doing, and that you're on a dead track. When you feel you've got more skills, you've got to get feedback. And then you got to work on those areas to minimize those weaknesses, but find an area of your strength that you can excel in and you can lead in. And, you know, it sounds simple, obviously, but it is all about one step at a time, doing a lot of those basic things.
Right here, and then final question.
Mr. Miller, one of the things that I get concerned about is what we're leaving for our young men and young women that are coming behind us. Okay? And as these individuals go through college, preparing for whatever career, whatever future they have, there's another thing you have to kind of keep a focus on, and that is the kinds of things that are going on in society and around the world. And increasingly, one of the things that I see is a frustration that society is having with the financial institutions, Wall Street, banking, etc. What do you say is, as a president of Fifth Third Bank, major financial institution, what is the responsibility that you guys have to do something that is going to have an impact on that, so that we're leaving them with something that is of value?
Yeah, I mean, I understand a lot of the concerns. I understand a lot of the issues that are out there. I think a lot of people say, hey, the bank's got bailed out. Why can't you bail me out? A lot of people say, gee, I mean, these guys are making a lot of money. Here's a couple of things. And the banking industry does not do a good job in telling about the things that it does. I can't tell you how many people that I put in a home or a house. I can't tell you how many people I've sent their kids to college. I can't tell you how many businesses I helped get through the financial storm that had a business plan. We could work together. We could put forbearance agreements in place so that they could win and they could do their business. I can't tell you how much money we paid back to the government after they bailed us out. That was a very profitable program for the government. They gave banks money, banks paid them back, they invested in the banks, and from the times, the warrants that they bought, the U.S. government made a minute of those things. That's the part of the problem that they won't tell you. And for banks to tell people that doesn't make any sense. There is a part of this, though, that is owned by each of us. And that's our commitment to having a financial knowledge and savvy about the transactions and the obligations that we enter into. There are a lot of people that bought houses that they couldn't afford. I mean, and when financial terms were liberal, people would do it. They didn't have the financial discipline. I say part of my job is the education of financial and literacy to customers, but I can't make them do it. I can't make people not buy up more than they can chew. I can't make people not buy more than what they can afford.